I was 27 when I learned that family emergency could mean something entirely different depending on who was telling the story. My name's Tyler, and I've always tried to be the good nephew. You know the type, shows up on holidays, calls on birthdays, keeps in touch even when life gets in the way. Growing up, I was the quiet kid in a loud family. The one who sat back and watched arguments unfold over dinner, memorizing everyone's triggers, silently dodging them like landmines. My parents raised me to believe that helping family was never a question, it was a duty. So when my Aunt Melody called me crying one night, saying she was in desperate need of help, I didn't hesitate. And that's the part one keep replaying in my head. How quickly I said yes, and how stupid I felt later for doing it. Melody is my mom's younger sister. She's one of those people who floats through life always 10 minutes late and $20 short. She has this uncanny way of turning every minor inconvenience into a crisis, and every conversation into a monologue about how the world's been unfair to her. My mom would always defend her, saying, "That's just Melody. She's got a good heart." But even she couldn't ignore the trail of burned bridges and unpaid debts Melody left behind like breadcrumbs. Still, she was family. And family, as I was raised to believe, means you show up, even when it's inconvenient. Especially then. The call came on a Tuesday night, around 11 p.m. I was just wrapping up a Zoom meeting with my startup team. We'd landed a new contract and were finalizing deliverables. I was exhausted but wired, the kind of tired that makes you buzz instead of crash. That's when my phone lit up with her name. I hesitated before answering. Melody never called this late. She barely called at all, unless it was about some new essential oil scheme or to borrow money, until Friday. "Tyler." Her voice was trembling, high-pitched, almost gasping. Oh God, I didn't know who else to call. I stood up from my desk, instinctively pacing. "What's going on? Are you okay?" "It's me. I'm the one who's not okay." She let out this soft whimper, followed by a shaky breath. "I have to have surgery. Emergency surgery. They found something. A growth. They're saying it could be cancer." The word hit me like a punch. For a second, I forgot to breathe. What kind of surgery? Appendix, maybe, or something with my liver. I don't remember the name. It's all a blur. They just said it's urgent and that I need to go private if I want it done in time. Otherwise, I'll be on a waiting list for months, and by then, she trailed off, letting the silence hang. "Do you need me to drive you? I can be there in an hour." "No," she sniffled. I need help with the money. The hospital wants a deposit. It's $50,000. I hate asking, Tyler, I really do. I wouldn't if I wasn't desperate. 50 grand. That's not pocket change, no matter how well your startup's doing. But she caught me off guard. Vulnerable. Scared. And above all, I believed her. I believed every word because Melody, for all her quirks, had never lied about something this serious before. I promised I'd transfer the money by morning, and I did, wired straight from my business emergency fund. The next day, I told my mom about it. She went quiet, then asked, "Did she say what hospital?" I shook my head, suddenly realizing she hadn't. I called Melody that evening, but it went straight to voicemail. I figured she might already be in the hospital, and the thought made my stomach twist. The days passed. 1, 2, 3, then a week. Still no updates. No thank you text. No receipts. Not even a social media post. And that, in itself, was strange. Melody lived online. She posted about everything. Her lunch, her dog, her son's high school band recital. The radio silence started to feel ominous. Then, on the 8th day, my cousin Brody, her son, posted something on Instagram that stopped me cold. A wide-angle video of a brand-new, cherry-red Camaro doing a dramatic burnout in their driveway before parking beside a makeshift pool setup in their backyard. Balloons, drinks, grills, clearly a party. The caption? "New whip just dropped. Summer's here, baby." My jaw clenched. Surely not. I clicked through the next few stories. Laughter, music, people dancing around the car. And then the shot that made my stomach drop. Melody, in oversized sunglasses and a sundress, holding a mimosa and laughing as someone off camera asked, "So where'd you get the ride?" She leaned in, beaming, and said with mock secrecy, "From someone who still believes in family." I just stared at the screen. I didn't even blink. For a long time, I didn't feel anything. Just static. Like my brain short-circuited trying to process what I was seeing. Then the emotions kicked in. Confusion, betrayal, And then this slow, rising fury that burned behind my ribs like fire. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. But the pieces were clicking together fast, and the picture they made was disgusting. Still, I needed to be sure. I drove over that evening. I hadn't seen Melody or Brody since Christmas, and even then, it had been awkward. They didn't invite me to things, not really. I was the too successful cousin. The one who made them uncomfortable, I guess. When I pulled up to the house, the Camaro was still parked in the driveway, gleaming under the porch lights like a trophy. There were a few stragglers cleaning up cups and folding chairs. I spotted Brody hauling a speaker into the garage, shirtless, smug, and barefoot. I stepped out of the car and said casually, "Nice car." He turned, gave me a once-over, and smirked. "Yeah, sick, right?" "Very," I said. "What dealership?" He shrugged. "Dunno. Mom took care of it." "Interesting," I said, walking up the path. "She said she was in the hospital." Brody paused mid-step, blinking. "Huh." I knocked on the front door before he could answer. Melody opened it a few seconds later, looking like she'd just stepped out of a spa. Hair done, skin glowing, fresh nails. She looked healthy, radiant, suspiciously unsick. She looked me up and down, then smiled tightly. "Tyler, didn't know you were coming." "Yeah, thought I'd check in. You know, since you've been too busy to return a single call or text." She hesitated, then waved me in like I was being difficult. "Oh, don't be dramatic. It's been hectic. You know how it is." I stepped inside, the scent of barbecue and chlorine still hanging in the air. "So, the surgery?" She made a face like I'd asked something distasteful. "Oh, that. False alarm, thank God. The doctors were wrong. All of them." She poured herself a fresh mimosa and didn't offer me one. "Modern medicine, huh? And the 50 grand. She sipped. Then, with the same smug smile from the Instagram video, she said, "It's being used. Don't worry." On the car. She didn't answer directly, just tilted her head and said, "From someone who still believes in family." Then she laughed. I didn't. I just looked at her, stone-faced. Then I smiled. "Cool," I said. "Enjoy it while it lasts. I've already started the process to get every penny back." Her smile faded, just slightly. "Excuse me." I turned to leave. "You heard me." And that's when things really started spiraling. But I'll get to that soon. First, you need to know what came before. The reason I was able to help her in the first place, the history of our family dynamic, and the kind of person Melody really is when the mask slips. Trust me, this goes deeper than a car. If you had told me a year earlier that I'd end up treating my own aunt like a hostile business partner, I would have laughed. Melody wasn't a saint, but she was family. The kind of person you tolerated because she made family events more chaotic and colorful. She drank too much wine, flirted with the caterers at weddings, brought off-brand soda to every potluck, and told dramatic stories with questionable timelines. She was messy, but she was ours. That was the lie I told myself, over and over again, as I gave her the benefit of the doubt. That maybe her flaws were just quirks. Maybe she wasn't manipulative, just scattered. Maybe she wasn't selfish, just misunderstood. But after the Camaro, I stopped making excuses. I saw her clearly. And once I stopped blinding myself, I started seeing the rest of them clearly, too. It started slowly, little things that now, looking back, were huge red flags. For one, no one in the family called to check in on me after the surgery. Not even to say, "Thanks for helping Melody." My mom seemed uneasy about the whole thing, but whenever I brought it up, she'd change the subject. When I finally confronted her about it, she looked away and mumbled, "She's your aunt, Tyler." She needed help. Did she? I asked. Because she seemed pretty damn healthy at her pool party. My mom stiffened. "Don't bring that up." She told me it was just a misunderstanding. Something about the results getting mixed up and a canceled procedure. Then where'd the car come from? She didn't answer. Just gave me this look like I was making trouble. Like I was the one disrupting the peace. That's when it hit me. Melody hadn't just lied to me. She'd spun a story, one tailored for guilt. One that leaned on my reputation as the reliable one. And worse, she'd gotten away with it because no one wanted to believe she was capable of something like this. It was easier to believe I'd misunderstood or overreacted, or, my favorite, could afford it anyway. That line came from Uncle Dave, Melody's brother, a week later. We were at my cousin's engagement dinner. I'd gone out of obligation, still unsure whether I should start cutting these people out entirely or play it cool while I gathered information. But the second I walked in, I knew something had shifted. The glances, the hushed whispers. People weren't avoiding me. They were talking about me. "You made a scene," my mom hissed when I confronted her in the kitchen. "Melody said you threatened her." I said I'd take legal action. "That's not a threat. That's a consequence. She's family." That word again. Family. As if it were a magic shield against all wrongdoing. I looked her in the eyes and said, "If she wasn't family, would you let someone lie about cancer to steal 50 grand? Her lips parted, but she had no answer. That night, as the family gathered around to toast the happy couple, Melody made a show of giving Brody a watch. A Rolex. She held it up like she was presenting an Oscar. Everyone clapped and cheered as he hugged her. Someone even shouted, "Damn, Mel, did you rob a bank?" She winked. Close. And there it was again, that smug audacity. She wanted me to see. Wanted me to know she was untouchable. That this family would always protect her, no matter what. Even at my expense. I left early that night. I didn't say goodbye. A few days later, the final nail in the coffin came. My mom called me in tears. At first, I thought maybe she'd finally seen the light. That maybe Melody had gone too far even for her. But no. She told the family you tried to sue her. She cried. She said you're trying to bankrupt her over a misunderstanding. I was silent for a long moment. And you believe her? I don't know what to believe anymore, Tyler. You're being so cold. You don't answer my calls. You don't show up to things. Because you all sided with her. We're not taking sides. You are. Every time you excuse what she did, you're taking a side. She sniffled. She's going through a lot, you know. She said the money was used for medical debt. I laughed. Actually laughed. Medical debt doesn't come with horsepower and a spoiler, Mom. She didn't like that. We didn't talk again for a few weeks after that. Meanwhile, Melody was doubling down. I started getting texts from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Cousins, second cousins, even my grandma's church friend, Lorraine. Messages like, "Just heard about the misunderstanding with Melody. Hope you two can work it out. Family is everything, Tyler. Don't throw yours away over a few dollars. She's your aunt. She'd give you the shirt off her back." Sure. She'd give me the shirt off her back after selling my jacket and pretending she found the shirt in a dumpster for sympathy points. The tipping point came at my mom's birthday party in mid-July. It was supposed to be a small thing, backyard barbecue, just family. I almost didn't go, but guilt is a hell of a motivator, and I figured maybe, just maybe, things would settle down. They didn't. I walked in with a bottle of wine and a fake smile, and immediately knew something was off. Everyone was acting weird. Whispery. Smirky. I caught Brody eyeing me from across the yard with that same smug look he had the day I saw the Camaro. I tried to shake it off. Sat down at a table with a few uncles, chatted about the usual, work, weather, football. Then Brody walked over, holding a beer, and said loud enough for half the yard to hear, "Hey, Tyler, want a ride in the Camaro later? We're naming it the Tumor. You know, in honor of Mom's fake cancer." Laughter erupted. Loud. Cruel. My heart dropped. I stood up slowly, every muscle in my body tight. "What did you just say?" He grinned, unbothered. "Relax, man. Just a joke. You're the one who believed it, remember?" No one said anything. No one stopped him. Not even my mother. I looked around, hoping for a single face that showed outrage. All I saw were pitying eyes. Or worse, amused ones. That was the moment something in me snapped. A clean break. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just put the wine down on the table, turned to Brody, and said, "Hope you enjoy the car." Then I looked directly at Melody. She was sitting in a lounge chair like a queen on a throne, sipping a drink and pretending to ignore us. "You too," I said. "Enjoy all of it while you can." She smiled, like she'd won. I smiled back, but mine was colder. "You have no idea what's coming." I walked out, got in my car, and drove home with my hands shaking. Not from sadness, but from clarity. I'd spent months feeling hurt, betrayed, confused. But in that moment, all the noise died down. The fog lifted, and I saw my path forward with perfect precision. They thought they got away with it. They thought this would be another story they laughed about at Thanksgiving. Remember when Tyler got scammed? They'd say, sipping cider and carving turkey. They had no idea I'd already been planning my next move. Because I hadn't just started the process to get my money back. I'd started collecting evidence. And what I found in the weeks that followed, let's just say the Camaro was the least of their concerns. But that's another part of the story. Let's just say the betrayal wasn't over yet. And when it came, It wasn't just shocking. It was personal. You ever have one of those moments where it feels like the floor's been yanked out from under you, but no one around you notices? Like you're falling in slow motion, and they're all just laughing at a joke you weren't in on? That was me after the party. After the tumor joke. After realizing that the people who were supposed to have my back, my family, had not only failed me, but found entertainment in watching me get used. And not just used, humiliated. For the first time in my life, I didn't want to be around them anymore. No birthdays. No barbecues. No check-in texts. I turned off group chats. I muted calls. I didn't even open the family Facebook group chat where I'm sure Melody was still posting daily selfies with captions like #blessed and family first. But it wasn't just the betrayal that messed me up. It was the silence afterward. The vacuum of trust. That eerie stillness when you finally realize they were never really on your side. The thing about hitting rock bottom isn't just that it hurts. It's how quiet it is. It's how alone you feel, even in a crowded room. And for a while, I stayed down there. I stopped replying to most of my friends, stopped taking meetings unless they were absolutely necessary. My startup team noticed I was off, even if I pretended I was just busy. I'd stare at spreadsheets for hours and not process a single number. I'd reread the same emails 3 times before realizing I hadn't even absorbed the first sentence. It wasn't just about the money anymore. 50 grand stung. Yeah, but I could recover from that. It was the betrayal that kept me up at night. The fact that I had been so stupid, so easily manipulated. I couldn't stop replaying it. Her voice cracking over the phone. The way she said, I didn't know who else to call. The way I actually rushed to help her like some damn knight in shining armor. There was a moment, one night in late July, where I sat in my apartment, in the dark, just listening to the fridge hum. I hadn't eaten that day. I hadn't moved in hours. My phone buzzed once with a new message from my mom. I didn't open it. I just stared at the screen, and for the first time in years, I felt that familiar ache of loneliness from when I was a kid. When you're the one who always has it together, no one checks in on you until you break. But something shifted that night. I don't know why. Maybe it was the way the streetlight outside my window hit the Camaro wallpaper on Brody's Instagram when I scrolled past it. Maybe it was the audacity of Melody posting another quote about karma and what goes around comes around. Or maybe I just finally got tired of feeling sorry for myself. Either way, I got up. I took a long shower, shaved for the first time in days, threw out 2 full takeout bags, and opened my laptop. Not for emails, not for meetings, but to start a folder I called Receipts. Because if they were going to treat me like a fool, I was going to show them what a fool could do with a little time, tech, and tenacity. That night marked the start of what I now call my quiet season. I didn't post online. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. I didn't rant or vent or explain myself. I just got to work. First thing I did was contact my bank and get full transaction records from the day I wired the money to Melody. I flagged the payment and noted the exact time, routing number, and memo line. Emergency medical, urgent, I had typed. The irony. Then I pulled up Melody's old emails. She'd forwarded me hospital documents, screenshots of doctor referrals, even a blurry picture of her wrist with a hospital band on it. Turns out, a lot of that stuff was either forged or wildly exaggerated. The photo of her in a hospital gown? That same photo was from 2019, when she had minor food poisoning and posted a whole hospital selfie saga on Facebook. The doctor's note she sent? A reverse image search pulled up a matching template from a Google image result of Doctor Excuse Note PDF. It was fake. All of it. And I believed every word. But I didn't stop there. I reached out to someone I hadn't talked to in years, Jeremy, an old friend from college who now worked as a freelance digital investigator. We'd collaborated on a couple tech projects back in the day, and while we hadn't kept in touch, I remembered him posting about helping small businesses investigate fraud. I sent him a message explaining the situation. He replied an hour later. You want proof she used the money on the car? I wrote, yes. I want everything. I want her Instagram comments, her credit applications. I want the VIN number if we can get it. He replied, give me a few days. While he got to work, I focused on something I'd been neglecting, my business. I co-founded a digital onboarding SaaS platform 2 years ago. Our growth had plateaued slightly after our last funding round, mostly because I had been spread too thin handling everything from marketing to team management to investor reports. But now, I poured myself into it. I streamlined our customer flow, implemented new retention strategies, and outsourced the stuff I had no business micromanaging. And you know what? It worked. Our numbers started climbing. Slowly, then sharply. We onboarded 2 new enterprise clients. I got invited to a panel in New York. And more than anything, I started feeling like myself again. Not the version who jumped at every family guilt trip, but the version who built something from the ground up, brick by digital brick. Jeremy got back to me 3 weeks later. He sent a file labeled melodyreport.pdf. I opened it slowly, not sure what to expect. Inside was a neat collection of screenshots, receipts, and timestamps. Turns out, the Camaro wasn't even paid in full, it was leased. Melody had made a massive down payment just 3 days after I sent her the wire transfer. Brody's name wasn't on anything. She'd used her own, claiming family support on her application. The dealership sales guy even posted a photo of them on his Instagram page. Another happy customer, 2023 Camaro, base model but custom color. Enjoy, Mel. There were also more screenshots of her messaging someone I didn't recognize, saying, Tyler finally sent it. Told you he would. This is gonna change everything. The tone wasn't grateful. It was gloating. One message from Melody to a friend simply read, he really believed I was dying. LMAO. Too easy. I couldn't breathe when I read that one. Not because I was shocked anymore, but because it made everything real. Final. The illusion was gone. Melody hadn't just taken advantage of me. She enjoyed doing it. And the rest of them? They cheered her on. That night, I copied the entire folder, backed it up to 2 drives, and stored it in the cloud. Then I poured myself a glass of scotch I'd been saving for something worth celebrating. I wasn't ready to act just yet, but I was ready to stop hiding. The next time my mom texted me, I replied. She said she wanted to have coffee, just to talk. I agreed. We met at a small cafe near her neighborhood. She looked tired. Not old, but tired. Like she hadn't been sleeping. She started with small talk, but I didn't take the bait. Finally, she said, Melody's worried. I sipped my coffee. She should be. She said you hired someone. That you're digging into things. I am. My mom's eyes filled with tears. She's your aunt, Tyler. She made a mistake. No, Mom. She made a decision. A series of them. She just wants to move on. Can't you? Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her? I looked at her for a long moment, then reached into my bag and slid a printed copy of one of Melody's texts across the table. My mom read it. Then she read it again. Her hands started shaking. She said this, she whispered. She said a lot more. There was silence between us. Real silence. The kind where something finally clicks. I didn't want to believe it, she said softly. I kept thinking, she's just overwhelmed, or scared, or, she's a con artist, Mom. And I let her con me. But I'm not letting her keep it. That was the day things shifted. My mom didn't defend Melody again. She didn't exactly apologize either, not right away, but I saw something change in her. Shame, maybe. Or guilt. Maybe both. I went home that day feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Power. Not the kind that comes from revenge, or winning, or even justice. Just the quiet power of knowing I wasn't crazy. That I had proof. That I wasn't alone anymore in seeing her for what she really was. And I wasn't done. Because what Melody didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd found a legal clause in the wire transfer agreement. One that allowed reversal in the case of confirmed fraud. It was rare, complicated, required airtight proof. But I had that now. And more. I had a plan. And I was just getting started. But before I get to that part, before the real fireworks began, you need to hear about the final betrayal. The one that pushed everything over the edge. Because if you think the Camaro was the worst of it, you haven't met Melody's lawyer yet. I didn't go nuclear right away. There's this misconception that revenge is loud. That it's some cinematic explosion with dramatic music and everyone gasping in slow motion. But in reality, the most effective revenge is quiet. It's patient. It's clinical. It's watching the people who wronged you walk around on a floor you know is about to collapse, but not warning them. Just waiting. Letting them smile. Letting them laugh. Letting them believe they're safe. That's where I was now. Calm. Cold. Focused. I had the evidence. I had the motive. But what I didn't have yet was the perfect opportunity. And I wasn't about to move without it. See, Melody wasn't just a thief. She was a liar with a spotlight. A woman whose entire identity revolved around appearing successful, enviable, loved. Her Instagram was a curated shrine to this fake image of fun wine aunt living her best life. She was also part of several social circles in town, charity luncheons, school fundraisers, neighborhood wine tastings, all of which gave her a kind of local clout she wielded like a discount crown. But clout, like a cheap crown, shatters easily. I just needed the right surface to drop it on. And then, as if the universe was throwing me a bone, the invitation came. Brody was turning 21 in September, and Melody, never one to miss a performative milestone, was throwing him a party. Not just any party, but a full-blown Roaring Twenties themed birthday bash at a private event hall just outside the city. There would be a DJ, catered food, a professional photographer, and, of course, plenty of social media coverage. The second I got the invite, a literal printed card with faux gold trim and a wax seal, I knew. This was it. This was where it would all begin. But before I could move, I needed to tie up some legal loose ends. I met with a lawyer. A good one. The kind of lawyer who doesn't advertise on billboards, but gets referrals whispered between old money circles. Her name was Adeline. Late 40s, razor sharp, wore her reading glasses like they were tactical gear. I handed her the folder labeled Receipts. She read through it in silence. When she finally looked up, she said, "You could sue her." I plan to. "Good," she said. "But you'll need more than social media screenshots. That stuff's convincing to us, sure. But for a courtroom, we'll need a clean paper trail. Bank statements. A sworn admission of intent. Or a recording." I nodded. "I thought so. Your advantage," she continued, tapping a pen against the folder, "is that she's arrogant. People like this talk. If you get her comfortable, get her bragging, you won't need to trick her. She'll incriminate herself." I left her office that day with a new fire under me. Not because I needed the money back. I mean, yes, I wanted it, but because I now had a path. A legal one. A concrete one. One that would pierce through Melody's fortress of manipulation and expose her for what she was. I spent the next few weeks preparing like a man going to war. First, I bought a discreet voice recorder, pen-sized, voice-activated, high quality. I tested it in every environment. Car rides, restaurants, even while holding it in my hand like it was a regular pen. I practiced how I'd talk to her, how I'd bait her, how I'd guide the conversation without tipping my hand. Then I reached out to Brody. I figured he'd be the easier target. I messaged him casually, something about wanting to bury the hatchet before his party. Said I'd been thinking about what happened, and maybe I took things too personally. It took him 5 minutes to respond with a thumbs up, and LOL, all good, man. You coming to the party? I told him I'd think about it. Then I bought my ticket. Not just to the party, but to the downfall. The week before the party, I showed up at Melody's doorstep. She looked surprised, but not suspicious. "Tyler. Wow. Wasn't expecting you." I smiled. Thought I'd clear the air before Brody's big day. She leaned against the doorway like we were old pals. "That's really mature of you." "Oh, I've grown a lot lately." She let me in. The recorder was already rolling, clipped to the inside of my jacket pocket. We sat in the same living room where she once sipped mimosas and bragged about my generosity. She offered me wine. I accepted. Then I said the words I'd rehearsed a dozen times. "You know, looking back, I'm actually kind of impressed." She blinked. "Impressed? That whole emergency surgery thing. The fake documents. The timing. You had me wrapped around your finger. Honestly, respect." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Don't say that." "I mean it," I pressed. "You got me. And that car?" Brody looked like a rock star. She shrugged. "Well, he deserved it. And you deserve the down payment. Can't blame a woman for using her resources, right?" She sipped her wine, that smug grin returning. "Tyler, you're not still mad about that, are you?" I was. "But like I said, I've grown." She leaned in. "Honestly, you shouldn't be so trusting. You made it too easy." And there it was. Click. She said it. Not as an apology. Not even as a joke. She admitted to manipulating me, on tape. The rest of the conversation was icing on the cake. Little nods to creative financing, how she bent the truth, because you wouldn't have helped otherwise, and my personal favorite. At the end of the day, you're successful. You can afford to be taken advantage of now and then. Consider it your family tax. Family tax. Let that phrase sink in. I left her house that evening with more than just a recording. I left with closure. Because in that moment, I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt ready. The night of the party arrived. Everyone showed up in flapper dresses and suspenders, dripping with fake pearls and pretending they knew anything about the 1920s beyond what they saw in The Great Gatsby. The event hall was decked out like a speakeasy, with jazz music playing through modern speakers and bartenders serving neon-colored drinks with names like the Prohibition Punch. I wore a sharp three-piece suit and brought a +1, Adeline. She wasn't there as my date. She was there as a witness. We mingled, we smiled, we clinked glasses. Melody spotted me from across the room and beamed like we were best friends again. She made a show of hugging me tight and whispering, "Glad you came. Feels like old times, huh?" "Exactly like old times," I said with a straight face. As the night wore on, people gave speeches. Brody made a sloppy toast thanking his mom for being the best lady ever. Melody dabbed her eyes with a napkin and posed for selfies with her wine in one hand and Brody's Rolex in the other. And then, about halfway through the night, the projector came on. The DJ announced a surprise tribute video from friends and family. Melody clapped her hands. "Aw, you guys." The video started with Brody as a baby. Home videos, childhood photos, sweet music. Then a sudden cut. Black screen. Then white text. Family tax. How to steal $50,000 with a smile. The music stopped. The room went silent. And Melody's voice echoed through the speakers. "Honestly, you shouldn't be so trusting. You made it too easy." People turned. Gasps. Whispers. "At the end of the day, you're successful. You can afford to be taken advantage of now and then." Melody's face drained of color. She stood up, stammering. "What is this? Turn it off. Turn it off." But it kept playing. A tight montage of screenshots, voice clips, documents, all anonymized to protect privacy, but clear in intent. A perfect highlight reel of her scheme. I watched her unravel in real time. But here's the thing. That wasn't even the revenge. That was just the warning shot. Because the real setup, the one that would cost her everything, that started after the party, when her lawyer tried to contact me. And I told him, "Oh, you must be new here. Let me explain how we do things now." The fallout began before I even got to my car that night. Melody chased me out of the event hall, her heels clacking against the pavement like gunshots. "Tyler, what the hell was that?" I turned around slowly, calm, collected, like I'd been rehearsing this scene for weeks, because I had. "That," I said, "was a live demonstration. The legal kind. You've just been served publicly. You can't just, that was private. That was illegal." "Nope," I said, pulling a folded piece of paper from my inside pocket. "In this state, one-party consent laws mean I can record any conversation I'm part of. And you knew what you were doing, Melody. You admitted it." She snatched the paper from my hand, eyes darting over the legal jargon. "This isn't a joke." "No," I said, stepping closer, "but you were. For months." She blinked at me, frozen. Behind her, guests had started spilling out of the building, whispering, glancing back at the screen where the video had frozen on the phrase, "From someone who still believes in family." Poetic. I turned and left her standing there. I had no intention of dragging this out with a screaming match. This wasn't a reality show. This was chess, and I was 5 moves ahead. The next morning, her lawyer, some guy named Tom with too much ego and not enough sense, emailed me a cease and desist. Adeline responded. 3 lines. "Your client committed documented fraud. We will be moving forward with civil litigation, and we are also in contact with local authorities regarding financial misconduct. We suggest you advise her to settle immediately." 3 hours later, the settlement offer arrived. It was laughable. $15,000. For emotional misunderstanding. I countered with the full $50,000, plus $10,000 in damages, and a legally binding public apology posted to her social accounts for a minimum of 60 days. They ghosted me for 2 days. Then, something beautiful happened. My post, not the video, not the recording, but a carefully written public statement, went viral. I hadn't posted it to Reddit or TikTok or Instagram. No, I'd posted it in a very specific Facebook group. Real Moms, Real Community, Tri-City Chapter. The same group where Melody posted daily. In my post, I wrote, "Hi, I'm Tyler. You may know my Aunt Melody. She often shares inspirational quotes about kindness, loyalty, and what goes around comes around. So I thought it only fair to share my story, how she fabricated a life-threatening illness, forged medical paperwork, and scammed $50,000 from me under the guise of emergency surgery. That money went toward a Camaro and a Rolex. I have legal documentation, recordings, and proof of everything. I'm not here for pity. I'm here to warn others, because con artists don't always look like strangers on the internet. Sometimes they look like family. And yes, I am suing. Because even if blood is thicker than water, it's not thicker than a wire transfer. It got 6,000 likes in the first 2 hours. Over 900 comments. Melody's empire of curated lies collapsed in real time. People were furious. Women who'd bought into her essential oils business called her a fraud. Parents she'd swindled during school fundraisers wanted their money back. Even the neighborhood HOA, which she'd once led, opened an emergency meeting about reputation damage. And just when I thought it couldn't get better, it did. Because someone forwarded my post to a local journalist. And he reached out. I didn't say yes at first. I didn't want to make it a circus. But then I thought about how many people she'd probably done this to. And how many of them didn't have the means or courage to fight back. So I gave him an interview. Carefully worded, lawyer-approved, and utterly damning. The headline the next day? Fake cancer, real Camaro. Local man exposes family fraud in stunning viral post. Melody stopped responding to her lawyer after that. The final straw came a week later, when I received notice from the bank. They had reviewed the fraudulent transfer case, and due to the overwhelming evidence, including the wire memo, forged documents, and her recorded confession, they had decided to reverse the transaction. All of it. Every last dollar. The reversal hit her account like a sledgehammer. The Camaro? Repossessed within days. The Rolex? Pawned, then confiscated in a debt claim. Brody? He posted a dramatic, all-caps rant on Instagram that was gone within an hour. But not before someone screenshotted his closing line. Can't trust anybody. Not even family. Funny. That line sounded familiar. And Melody? She went radio silent. No posts. No stories. No new inspirational quotes. The apology came quietly. A few weeks later, her account posted a Notes app screenshot. To my family and followers, I deeply regret the choices I made, and I take full responsibility for my actions. I have wronged someone who only wanted to help, and I am truly sorry. I will be stepping away from social media to reflect, make amends, and do better. It was up for 61 days. I know because I checked. And what about the rest of the family? Some tried to play both sides. We didn't know. She lied to us too. We just didn't want to get involved. But I didn't owe them anything anymore. Not my energy. Not my explanations. And definitely not my forgiveness. My mom, she was the only one who really changed. She came to me one Sunday. Months later, no makeup, no excuses. Just truth. You were right, she said. I let her twist things. I let her twist me. I didn't say anything at first. I just nodded. Then she added something that stuck with me. You didn't just stand up for yourself, Tyler. You reminded me how to stand up for myself too. We've been rebuilding since then. It's slow, awkward, but it's real. As for me, I didn't just get my money back. I got something more valuable. I got clarity, boundaries, peace, and the unshakable knowledge that I can survive betrayal and still come out smarter, stronger, and standing taller than before. You can't put a price on that. So no, I'm not angry anymore. I'm not bitter. I'm just done. And in the end, Melody was right about one thing. What goes around does come around. She just didn't expect it to arrive in a suit, carrying receipts, and smiling politely as it knocked on her front door. I didn't burn the bridge. I just made sure she could never cross it again.